All right, let's stick with some international news, and we're gonna still stick with Europe for a little bit, right? Because we've been hovering around that continent. Let's stay with Europe. Let's talk a little bit about France. We've got to keep up with the updates as they come because although nothing is official yet for the new manager of the France women's national team, there's still the ongoing speculation and rumors tied to Hervé Renard. Apparently, he has left his post of the Saudi Arabia men's national team, and there's a lot of indication saying that this means that he's going to pivot to France and take the manager role there. So there has been a member of the Saudi Arabia Football Association who is quoted as saying that Renard is determined to return to France to take over a national team. And a second source added that the Saudi Arabia Federation has accepted his resignation. So, a national team, there's been a lot of connection to the women's team, and there's a possibility that his official title can be announced somewhat soon. I mean, it's got to happen sooner rather than later, right? At this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like we're just waiting for this announcement to come. And I think that for people waiting for this and wondering if and when it's going to happen, this was really the first step, right? He had to leave his current coaching position in Saudi Arabia, and now basically all of the news talking about how this was the first step, and now France can hire him. But France has been through a lot, and we talked about it a little bit earlier in this episode that there's an international window. We are right about to come up on it in the second week of April. So how does this all come together before then? Because there's a lot going on there. But Saudi FA has accepted his resignation, and he wants to get back to France. He's been very vocal about that, wanting to get back and coach a national team. And now's the opportunity. So will this happen? Will it happen before the international window happens? And how is this all going to play out?
Gosh.
I mean, there's a lot of moving parts at this point. A lot of moving parts.
I feel like it has to. There's
If they miss this if France misses this international window, there are no more international windows to prepare for the World Cup.
I'm like bumbling because I'm just like they have to. Like I'm over here stuttering because I'm just like there's the time is running.
Nothing like cutting it close, announcing the resigning from the club team. This was yesterday, March 28th. This news came out about Renard saying that he wants to get back to France. But today, as of 11 a.m. Eastern on March 29th, Wednesday, we haven't heard anything. There hasn't been a roster drop for France. The international window is coming up.
Yeah, and everything that we've been sort of following along the way with certain national team programs that are in current disputes with their federations. I mean, Canada, we were just talking about their playing in protest during She Believes Cup in the February international window, and something that was that came out of that was the announcement of their next friendly. So that they were supposed to go to France and play against France, and it was going to be, I think, over the two potential matches that you can have. Beth Priestman saying they were going to keep it to one match. They wanted to have the experience of travel and team bonding and have one solid match against another top ranked team in order for the preparation to really get cranked up in the build up to the World Cup. And since then, there's been like respective ongoing disputes between players and their federations, right? So I would imagine for France, they are going to announce Renard sometime soon so that he can be on the sideline or with this team as they approach this April window. And I would imagine that this friendly is still scheduled to take place because we haven't heard otherwise. So we'll keep an eye on that for sure. But it's not just France and Canada with matches over this next international window coming up in April. And it's not just United States and Ireland. We want to chat about some other cool things happening during this time. We want to talk about a little bit of a crossover because, listen, we love a collab. We're big fans. Mexico and the NWSL are going to compete during this international window. Mexico women's national team going on a bit of a tour of their own, coming to the United States, and they will face off against the Houston Dash on April 8th, on April 11th, and they will face off against Chicago Red Stars on Saturday, April the 8th. So excited for this news. I think I'm gonna keep my eye on the dash because they've got a couple
Mhm.
of international dual nationals on that team. I think that's sort of the kind of the joke that's coming out
Yeah.
of this as these friendlies were announced. People are like, well, who is going to play for Mexico and who's going to play for the dash?
I
It's
know.
Maria Sanchez and Diana Ordonez, right? Like, how's that going to look? So, we'll see. I
We
think,
haven't heard yet. That's another roster
yeah,
we're waiting for.
we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna drop, and we'll maybe get a little bit of surprises there. But
I mean, I
yeah,
wouldn't be surprised if both Sanchez and Ordonez stay with Houston just because Mexico's not going to the World Cup.
mhm,
Sorry, you brought up Marquette earlier. I got
yeah,
to throw that one back in the
gotta throw it
case.
out there. I get it.
Um, so for them, like as a player, it might behoove them to stay with their club team, get a little bit more consistency there, establish themselves, but hey, you never know. You never know. It's always a good opportunity. But this next tour W is very cool that the partnership is announced and it's all kind of happening. Will you be at the game in Chicago?
I don't know. There's a United States Women's National Team
No.
game that's happening not too far from me in St. Louis, and
Uh,
the Midwestern in me says a 5-hour drive. That's nothing.
I know.
So we'll see. Stay
Makes
tuned.
my stomach turn a 5-hour drive.
Stay tuned. I'll let you and the people know what's going on there. But I've got options, and that's nice
Mhm.
to know. We've got more matches coming up though in the April window. We've got some pretty big ones. I love that. We're going to get an eye on so many top tier national team programs kind of going head to head against each other. We're going to see England against Brazil and Australia. We're going to see Germany against Brazil and the Netherlands. We're also going to see Japan, Portugal, Denmark. So I'm looking forward to this. I think for the roster drop that happened with the United States Women's National Team the other day, and sort of noting how, hey, this is going to be the final matches for the U.S. Women's National Team before the final World Cup roster is dropped. I don't just think that's the United States. I think you can look across the board and say that that's going to be true for many of these national teams. So this is going to be the last window of opportunity, at least at the international level, for a
Mhm.
lot of these players to sort of leave that impression, leave that mark on their coaching staff, and to make things difficult for the coaching staff when they're trying to finalize the 23 players who have to go to the World Cup this summer. So obviously, the combination of this window and extended club play are going to, matter in
Mhm.
terms of form for some of these national team head coaches. So I'm eager to see some of the individual performances that might break out of here.
Yeah, it's very exciting. There's definitely a lot of football to watch. In, of course, addition to all the US games that we'll be watching, previewing, recapping right here on Attacking Third, I'm really excited to watch Brazil play against England, against what the Lionesses can do there. And
Yeah,
then Brazil also gets to play against Germany. I love it that there's like a little bit of a round robin happening
yeah,
between a couple of different
mhm,
nations, because England won't play Germany, but they will play against Australia, and Brazil will also play against the Netherlands, another team that England will not play against.
yeah.
But interesting. I like how this is all shaken out and we get to watch it all happen. And of course, the United States play against Ireland, World Cup debutantes. Those will be good ones to tune into as well.
Yeah, I think it's cool that we're going through these as like FIFA just announced their updated rankings
Yeah.
for the upcoming World Cup. It's United States is still number one. There was no changes between 1 and 5 in terms of the top teams, but Australia did crack back into the top 10. So if there's other games that I'm eager to maybe try to keep an eye on, it might be England and Australia. I'm kind of looking forward to see how those two teams kind of match up against each other. But there's a lot of good ones here, so I'm sure folks will try to figure out the right time and right place and method to go ahead and tune in to some of these matches. And of course, we'll likely chat about the results of them as well. But that's it from us today in terms of all of the news and notes that we're talking about for across the globe and NWSL as well.